Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, I want to talk about 12 reasons why you should start a business today. And it's a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart because I've helped run a business since I was very young. And I started this podcast venture about a year and a half ago. And I have a few other ventures that I'm creating as we speak. And they may come out in the next few months. We shall see. But either way, I know that there's some percentage of people that have an interest in creating businesses. I think it's like 10% of the United States are entrepreneurs, so 10% of the United States population own businesses. But I'm sure there's a higher percentage of people in that pool who would want to start a business, who just might not know where to start, might not know why they should start. They might hear the doubt in their mind or the doubt in their family's minds when they talk about it or think about it. And I just wanted to make this episode to honestly inspire those kinds of people and honestly inspire myself because I'm still learning and growing. And, I heard a study once that said when people talk about their goals and talk about what they're going to do in the next few months, they get a boost of dopamine. They feel good in talking about something that they want to accomplish. I want to start a business. I want to start a podcast. I want to write a book. But it's kind of cheating the system because if you're talking about this goal in front of all these people, but never following through, you're just getting that hit of dopamine. Like, yeah, I am pretty cool. I'm going to start something. And then all the people are like, oh, awesome. And it feels great to talk about yourself. But when you don't follow through, you don't actually reach the other levels of dopamine, which is the delayed gratification and the meaning feeling of, wow, I did something hard and it worked. And so, yeah, I just wanted to quick say that study because I'm totally a person who's talked about something I want to start, talked about it to a few people, and then I realize, it's not the greatest idea. I'm not going to start it. So I'm not trying to condemn anyone who's done that. I do that all the time. But I'm trying my best these days to, if I have an idea, think it through. And then once I start telling people, I'm like, well, I better start and I better try it. And at least I could say I tried it. And yeah. So here's reason one. You could die tomorrow. And it sounds kind of morbid, but that's kind of how I look at life. Honestly, a few years ago, 3 years ago, I took a dive into psychedelics. And it was a philosophical dive, in my opinion. It taught me more about myself and the world and life. And it kind of showed me that, hey, you don't have very long on this earth. And you better start moving today because time is going to fly. And it kind of all ties in with this idea of Memento Mori. I don't know if guys know what that is. That means remember you must die. And I just had an episode with Tanner Rind, and he's honestly incredibly inspiring, knows so much about stoicism and philosophy. And he has this poster up on his wall that says Memento Mori. And there's hundreds of check boxes, probably thousands. And you fill them in, and each box represents a week of your life. And so, there's 52 weeks for the 1 year, 52, 52, 52, and it goes all the way to like 80 or 90 years old. And, his is about a quarter or a fifth filled out because he's 22 or 21. And it's like, when you see that every day, you're like, wow, time is just going to keep flying by. I've already spent about a fourth of my life if you're my age, or a fifth probably, or half your life if you're 40, 50. And some people just don't like to think about that. But honestly, I feel like it's kind of inspiring and motivating because you never know. Your time is very sacred and your clock could run out whenever. And so you might as well at least try something and say that you did try, because I feel like it's better to try than to live your life and then wish you would have. It all ties in with the second reason why you should start today, honestly, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to bring other distractions, and you're having the idea now. Start now. You literally have GPT at your fingertips. You have the internet. You have mentors. You have other people in your community that have started businesses. It's just a few questions away to starting this thing, and I truly believe in you. But it ties in with reason number 2 here, which is regret is worse than failure. And it brings me back to this episode, Harley Seelbinder podcast, episode 41 with Nick Coetzee. And I asked him, so what would you say to an entrepreneur who wants to start a business and has a dream? And he's like, don't let the fear of regret, I can't even say it. He says, the fear of regret should outweigh the fear of failure. And if you think about that for a little bit, you realize that, let the fear of regret outweigh the fear of failure. So what's worse, regret or failure? The fear of regret should be worse than the fear of failure. So many people live their lives afraid of failing, afraid of looking like a fool, afraid of looking stupid. But they don't really think ahead to when they're 80 and they're going to be on their deathbed and they're like, dang, I had this dream my whole life. And I lived my whole life without ever trying it. And in my opinion, that's one of like the scariest things I could ever think of, because I know that time is going to blink and I'm going to be on that deathbed before I even know it. And that feeling, I'm sure there's going to be some aspects in which I feel that thing, whatever it is, but tailoring against it, trying to lean in the opposite direction of that by just trying the things that you have a passion for, that, in my opinion, is a worthwhile pursuit. And just a funny little thing that I do with people when it's their birthday. So let's say I just had some friend turn 22, and I'm like, halfway to 44. And they're like, halfway to 44. I will be pretty old by then. It like makes them stop and think, because sometimes you kind of live in the moment and you don't realize the path that you're on and the trajectory that the speed of life. And when you think for a second, halfway to blank, it might incentivize you to move and honestly be grateful and all those things. And I learned that from my dad, honestly. My sister and my dad would always say that, and I've totally adopted it because I feel like it's awesome. And it really is like a philosophical, like, make someone think type scenario. And that's why I like it a lot. And, tying back to that rule 1, you could die tomorrow. And another phrase I love that ties in with this is farewell. Whenever I'm saying goodbye to someone, I say farewell, because you never know, man. Life is quick. You never know when the last time you'll see someone is. That's why you got to lay it all on the line today. That's what this whole thing's about. Start now. Do it today. All right. Point number 3. Your future self will thank you. I guess that's similar. It ties in with topics 2 and somewhat 1, but when you do things that your future self will thank you for, you are engaging in something that is meaningful. And this is because you're a person who is aware of the future. You're not just a person who is living today. You're a person who span across all of time, or all of your time. And, the person who's 45 is still somewhat the same person who's 22, but the 22-year-old is aware of it, isn't fully aware of what it's going to be like, but is aware that 44-year-old self is coming. And I guess these are all tying together. So I kind of jotted this list down, and this is a list that I'm going to use for myself. And if no one else listens, does not bother me, but hopefully it inspires someone. And I guess Peterson would talk about this idea of like, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. It kind of ties in where, in the current moment, you could be watching Netflix and going out, or you could be pursuing this business venture that would set up your future self to not be, enslaved to the career that you might not necessarily love. And yeah, I just feel like your future self will thank you. And I have a poster on my wall. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. I've had this on my wall for 3 years. You are what you look at. And I try to look at that and I'm like, all right, what's something I can do today that my future self will thank me for? And, my TV is almost never on. I don't put on my TV. It's very rare because I know that my future self is not going to thank me when I just watch TV every single night and watch other people's lives. I want to create a story. And you should too, because your life is the most beautiful story that's ever been written, and you're the writer. So start going. Your future self will totally thank you. All right. Let's look. Next, reason 4. Tying back to my other episode, overcoming obstacles makes you more resilient. Ties back to that whole do hard things to decrease your stress level. You will become so much more adaptable when you put yourself in scenarios that kind of put you on the edge of your seat, that make you slightly uncomfortable, that put you out of your comfort zone. When you do that on a regular basis, you are now entering into a space of growing new neurons in your brain, becoming a literal new person, and that's such a beautiful thing in my opinion. And that's why I truly love this idea of like standing on the edge of chaos and order. Peterson talks about it. The Taoists talk about the yin and the yang, the chaos and the order. When you're on that balance, when you are trying out things that you're not quite used to, or you're not totally sure about, or you don't really know that much about, you're kind of uncomfortable, but you have some confidence in the dimension. You grow as a person every time you put yourself in that scenario. And if you have a business idea and you're like, I don't really know that much about business or anything. And it's like, great, neither did anyone when they started, literally. And once they started, they were like, oh, okay, I'm seeing how it works. And then they have obstacles and employees quit or losing money. And it's like, when you go through hard things like that, you're going to become much more resilient. And the small things in your life that used to bug you, you're going to be much more able to handle them with a calm and collected mind. And I think that's a true important lesson. Like, let's tie it into Noah's Ark real quick. If you're able to build your life and build the ark for you and your family and make it stable and make your life stable so that it can weather the storms that are going to come. When you build your life like that, the small things in life aren't going to set you off and send you into extreme chaos. So let's talk about the yin and yang. I'm trying to draw it with my hands, not very possible. But you don't want to be too far into the chaos dimension where the waves are crashing in and you're drowning because you've completely shifted your direction and have no direction whatsoever. Like, I'm just trying to think of a scenario where you're in absolute chaos, where it's like you took on $50,000 worth of debt, but you didn't understand why, and I don't know, you just sold your house. I'm trying to think of a trash example of how absolute chaos is not a great idea. But on the other hand, absolute order is really not a good idea. Like, how interesting is your life when you do the exact same thing every day? You don't really try to learn that many new things. You don't try to grow as a person. 5 years down the road after a family reunion, someone asks you what's new, and you're like, nothing much. Same old. It's like, wow, that stopped the convo pretty quickly. And wow, you can even hear that in their voice that they don't really think they're very interesting. They know they're not interesting. And it's like, I'm rambling on, but that's why, when you have no growth and you're stagnant in life, you're you're falling behind. I'm trying to think of good quotes for this, and there's some on the tip of my tongue, and I can't quite go and get it. But it's like when you're teetering on the edge, when a gymnast is at a competition and they're like, okay, I could either do a move that I know I could master every time and that I have mastered and I know I could stick right now in front of all these judges, or I could try a trick that I've only gotten like once or twice, but I think I could do it, and it's worth the risk because if I do it, it would get me a 10 more than this easier maneuver would. And so then they try their absolute best. They teeter on the edge between order and chaos. Something beautiful and meaningful occurs when that happens. And I'm getting some of this from Peterson, but it's such a beautiful idea. And that's why I'm a huge fan of doing hard things. Get in the sauna, get in the cold plunge, fast. Do the HIIT workout. Get out in the sun and run. Honestly, literally, there's a lot of other hard things you could do, but those are kind of the things that I do that are hard. Also, put in the work after your work. That's a hard thing. Either way, like, you grind your 8 hours, and then instead of sitting down on the couch, you grind for 1 or 2 more hours on your computer thinking of your business idea. You're going to become more resilient, more adaptable, and you're not gonna have that stagnancy. You're gonna be able to tell your family members at the reunion, my life hasn't just been stagnant. I've done the same thing with work, grown in that dimension, but guess what? I have a new venture. I have something interesting that I'm passionate about. I find that to be a beautiful and ties into reason, I think 5. Other people will look up to you for inspiration. It all ties in at this family reunion. And you're telling your younger cousin, or you're telling your aunt and your uncle or whatever, and you're saying, I had this idea and I've been trying it and it's been going pretty well. I've been learning a lot and I really do enjoy it. And it's so beautiful, in my opinion, to see when people are doing something like that. When I see someone going out of their comfort zone and pushing themselves and believing in themselves and pursuing something that they truly are passionate about, I'm like, props. You're truly inspiring. Get me more times where we can hang out because I want to hang out more with you. Those are the kind of people that inspire me. And, we live in a very, very interesting society where life is pretty easy. A lot of people don't have to put in that much hard work and they can get quite a bit of money. They can sit and get tons of food delivered to their door and sit on a computer and make money doing so. Life is not nearly as hard as it used to be. And sometimes when life is super easy, people become weak. They take the easy path. They take the video game, junk food, porn route. That route is very easy. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And, when you take the route of being extraordinary, you're going to motivate people. And I think more people need that. It's like, don't you want to be the person in your friend group who started something and inspired other people around you to move instead of the person that held people back from their dreams? That's the person I want to be. It's easy to be great nowadays because most people are weak. David Goggins. It's like, if you want to be great at something, spend 18 minutes a day for the next 100 days, and you're going to be pretty great because 90% of the population has never done that, whatever thing you're trying to do. And in my opinion, that is it's easy to be great. Go for it. Do it. I believe in you. All right, next, lesson 6. Yes. You will learn lots about the topic. So, let's say this. Okay, I have a business idea. I want to start a hair salon, and I really am passionate about cutting hair. I always love styling my hair. I like dyeing my hair. I love the look of a clean shave. That's not me, as you could see, but either way, someone has this idea, and they're like, but I really don't know that much about business. I don't really want to take the risks. I really don't know that much. I really am just good at cutting hair. And it's like, huh. Well, guess what? If you just put in that 18 minutes a day, like I was saying, into learning something, whether that be how to start a hair salon business, GPT, Google, YouTube, 18 minutes a day, you're gonna become an absolute beast on this subject. And honestly, more of a beast than most people who are interested in hair. So now you have a level up on the competition. You're like, oh, there's so many other people that are trying to start hair salons. And it's like, well, maybe true, but you are now the person who has learned a ton just in the past few weeks about this topic, and have a little confidence in yourself. It's like, what more of a win-win? There's something I have a deep interest and passion for. Why not take the second step and start learning about it and becoming someone who's knowledgeable in that subject? You'll become more and more passionate. It's just this win-win-win. Keep going. And yeah, like I said, you have an unfair advantage now to the people who also are interested in hair cutting, because now you've put in all the time to see the logistics and the legitimacies of how you could start this thing. And I find that to be truly beautiful. And here's another one. The time and money that you spend will be well worth the lessons. It's like, it all ties in kind of. I've said that probably 4 times, but life is very interconnected in interesting ways. But there's something interesting that my roommate Nate would say, and he still does occasionally. And it's like, what better thing could I be doing? Or what better thing could I be doing? Or what else would I be doing? Like, it's this kind of thing, like, where it's, if you're going to take time in doing something, do something good for you or the community, what else could you be doing? It's like, are you going to be scrolling? Are you going to be jerking off? Are you going to be watching Netflix? It's like, your time could be spent in so many other ways. People spend money flippantly out at restaurants, bars, entertainment. And it's like, oh, it's a lot of money to try out this business idea. And it's like, so is living life. Life is expensive, and so many people spend money on things that they never use after the first week. And so many people spend money on things that make them more and more poor. And so it's like, why not try to invest in something that's going to give you lessons? Whether or not the business turns out good or not, who cares? Your soul will learn, and you're going to become just a more well-rounded person. And probably the next thing you try, you're going to be 10 times better. And you got nothing better to do. That's the phrase that Nate would say. You got nothing better to do. Come on. It's well worth it. Okay. Let's see here. All right, here's another one. This one's kind of interesting in regards to me that I've thought about recently. So in the next one, networking opportunities. When you decide to start the business today, you are now forced to reach out to suppliers, reach out to connections, reach out to potential advertisers, reach out to ambassadors, reach out to mentors. The list goes on and on. And when you start this thing today, after you listen to this episode, you now have the ability to meet the people you've admired. If you have a jewelry business, you might have the ability to look up the directory of the owner of a business of jewelry and call them, email them, reach out to their team. Sooner or later, they're going to hear about you and maybe talk to you. You know, starting this pod, I one day will meet Peterson. It's just a matter of time. And I actually just had the pleasure of meeting John Vervaeke, Jonathan Pajot, Paul Vanderklay, and a few others at this conference down in Chino, which my previous episode was talking about. And I wouldn't have guessed in a year and a half ago that I was able to sit at a table with Pajot and sit down and talk to Vervaeke and have on interesting guests from all around the world, from different places, who've taught me different things, who've given me all kinds of insights. It's like I've learned so much just from the connections I've made, and I'm truly thankful for that. But whatever business idea you have, you're now going to be able to create connections. And sometimes these connections can be lifelong, because sometimes the people who have a similar interest, which is the similar interest being a passion that you're mostly passionate about, you now have something in common with this person that you don't with many other people, and they can become a new great friend of yours or a new best friend. It's truly possible. I really believe it. And anyone that you're like, oh, I don't think they'd ever talk to me. It's like, they're human too, man. Every single human is just a human. They were conceived, were given birth to, grew up very unknowing until the age of 18, and still then very, very ignorant of life. By the time they're 25, their brain is just developed, so they're pretty new to this whole thing. Then by the time they're 50, they're still, they've got, I can't speak for someone who's 50, but either way, you still don't know that much, because the world is infinite and we're finite. And so it's impossible that you're going to know that much. So it's like, in the words of Tim Ferriss, email and call the celebrity that you want to get in contact with and ask them a question. Start a dialogue. What are you truly interested in? Start a dialogue with them that they actually would want to respond with, instead of, oh, you're so awesome, I love the things you do. It's like they hear that every day. You're not going to stand out. It might make them slightly uncomfortable. How often do you like when people come up to you and say, wow, you're amazing? It's like, you kind of don't know what to say after that. You're like, thanks. But if someone asks you a genuine question about your work, or about why you're doing what you're doing, or advice in this dimension, that's a conversation starter. Either way. And yeah, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Specialization is beautiful. Network out. The internet is insanely beautiful. So many connections I've made off Instagram. Who would have known? An app that I click on with my finger on a rectangle could reach me to the world with all kinds of different people. That's pretty insane. The power of rectangles. Interesting. All right, next reason. I think it's 7 or 8. Yeah, I don't know, 9. Financial independence. Tax benefits. I've talked about this in the Robert Kiyosaki episode. It's like, start an LLC today. It's not that hard. It takes about $200 probably. LegalZoom, start it up. Wish they would sponsor this. Just kidding. Whatever state you're in, you quick type in whatever business is, you select LLC, which I could walk through. It helps limit the liability from you. So if there's ever any kind of emergency, you personally cannot be sued. Your assets cannot be taken. It's the businesses. The business's money is separate. Gives you a lot of shelter. Gives you a lot of tax benefits. Either way, it's a beautiful strategy, because once you've signed that LLC and you have that EIN and you have to report it on your taxes, you now are more incentivized to be like, I have a business. I should start. But either way, put your phone bill in there, put your car insurance in there, put some of your rent in there. If you have a home office, ask your accountant about all these tricks. It's beautiful. Also, any loss that you take on the podcast, or geez, I'm talking in my own personal experience, but any loss you take, like let's say you invested money into the business, a few thousand in one year, it's just going to be subtracted across your income, and you're going to owe less taxes at the end of the year. It's something that's beautiful, and you're gonna learn, and this money that you're using is going to be non-taxed. It's pre-tax money that you're able to use and spend for expenses. So it's very nice. Another beautiful quote: "You do not become wealthy by renting out your time for money." This is by Naval Ravikant, and it's so true. Even if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you're not going to be necessarily financially free, because if you can't go into work for 2 to 3 weeks, your income is now destroyed. You now have no income because you need to be there. Whereas if you have ownership in a company and have created systems underneath you, you now have that financial independence. You now have the freedom to live your life the way you want to. You're not necessarily free if you're slave to the same location 5 days a week, a third of your life. You're not free. No matter how much money you have, time is so much more important. And this ties into that 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss. This literally needs to be an entire episode because it is life-changing. But automate and delegate. You are able to create a beautiful schedule if you are an entrepreneur. If you trust the people that work for you to do the work for you, and you pay them well, give them benefits, you're going to have a very flexible life. And that's the next reason why you should start today. You have flexibility in your schedule. I recently found a guy named Matt Gray, and you can look him up on Instagram. There's another Matt Gray that I looked up, and it's not non-related, but either way, he started this community called Herb and another course called Founder OS. And honestly, after finding his Instagram page, I've been so motivated and so inspired to delegate and automate more of my systems, whether that be at my mother's business or in my podcast venture or the other ventures that I talked about earlier that I have under the rug, ready to go. Systems are everything. And when you're able to build beautiful systems into your life and into your business, you now have that ability of time. And that's the thing I was talking about earlier. Time is so much more valuable than money. Let's say the doctor makes $160K but works 70 hours a week versus the person who makes $80K working 5 hours a week. It's like, think about that. The person made half as much money, but they spent, what is this? 140. What is that? No, geez, I can't even do math. It's 5 times. It's like 5 times 16, 17. Either way, it's a big multiplier in how little time they're spending versus the doctor. It's like the doctor's spending like 15 times as much time and make it for a 2x return. It's like time is so much more valuable. And honestly, don't put a label on what you're worth, because you never know what you could be worth. You could be worth something that you never would have imagined, so don't limit yourself. And that's the power of starting today. Start now. And here's something that's kind of beautiful. When your friends invite you on a week trip, randomly in the middle of summer, winter, whenever, can you make it happen? Or do you have to say, no, let me check my schedule, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, no, I have work. I can't get off. I only have 2 weeks vacation, and I already have that planned out other places. And it's like, too bad, That's okay. I will be there. I'm going to make it happen. And that's kind of the beauty of being a business owner. You have that power. You can do that. And like my roommate and I are going down to Alabama with a few other friends from high school. And This was kind of an impromptu scenario, but they knew they could call on us to be like, yo, trying to come out. And it's like, yes, I have created systems into my life. I have created financial independence where I can spend 5 days down on the beach with my friends without worrying about money or business because a lot of things are taken care of. And, the power of remote work also, I'll still be able to grind and put in a few emails and do a few tasks. That's possible. So either way, that's just a goal for y'all. Create a life that is a beautiful story. What kind of story is I went to the factory 5 times a week for 45 years and I got kind of fat because I became so unmotivated and the factory wears me out every day and I almost have no time, it feels like, to do anything that I really enjoy. And on the weekends, I'm still trying to recover. And then I spend money on the weekends to kind of feel better about myself and to kind of splurge because I deserve it. But then I stay in the same situation. And it's like, create the life. You got a rectangle in your pocket. Start pursuing your dream. Learn with GPT. Reach out to mentors. Instagram is the way. Go and learn. All right. Yeah. Next reason. You have an opportunity to pursue your passion. This is a one-time opportunity. And like I said, it can be done on your rectangle from anywhere. Go and do it. Pursue that passion. It's like, I think I've done an episode like pursue your passions, something like that. And it sounds so cliche, but it's like, do you want to live the life that really doesn't get you out of bed very well in the morning or doesn't interest you that well? It's like you'll have the ability to build that passion into your life. And like, have you ever heard of Ikigai? It's the intersection between what you love, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and man, there's a fourth one. Let's go for it. Ikigai. I got 3 out of the 4. It's a Japanese concept. There we go. What you love, which is your passion. What the world needs, which is your mission. What you are good at, which is your vocation. And what you can be paid for, which is your profession. What is the intersection of all those things? In my opinion, the intersection of those things for me is some kind of counselor, life coach, person who inspires someone to get after it, quit porn, reach the girl they've always wanted to. That's my Ikigai from what I can tell. And these podcasts are an honest way that honestly could be an Ikigai as well. But honestly, it's something that I'm going to keep doing even if I don't even know if it's my Ikigai because I said I would, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep learning. And, let's bring it to Harley for a minute here. I said about 1.5 years ago, I want to start a pod. No, I said 2.5 years ago, I want to start a pod. And 1.5 years ago, I pulled the trigger. And I would have never been in the place I am today. I would have never been as motivated. I wouldn't have as many side hustles, work with people out in Bangladesh doing some work for me. I wouldn't have learned how to do that if I wouldn't have taken this leap. And come on, people, find your Ikigai. That's a call to action. After this episode, write down what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you can get paid for. And then try to figure out what can be kind of mixed together. Look up diagrams. There's like Venn diagrams. Go and take a look. Pretty awesome. And it's like, when you have this passion, just know other people have the same passion, and they'll support you. Maybe they'll want to work for you, work with you. You never know. Help you out. All these things. Do it. Finally, you can make the world a better place by doing so, because your actions impact the lives of others. Most people live paycheck to paycheck and couldn't help fund charities and could not give scholarships to young people who really need it, or like the ability to set up future generations or other communities, or create a fund for the community, or really there's ways in which business just has power that individuals don't. And power, with great power comes great responsibility. What are you going to use with all this power, and what are you going to do with it? In my opinion, one of my goals is to reach out to George Cisneros and Jeff Winke and try to create some kind of way in which we can help fund the families and nations and communities that need help the most, and that money would be most well spent. Working with Jordan Peterson and Bjorn Longborg, Bjorn has been talking about the top ways in which money can be spent on world's problems in the most efficient way. It's like $1 can go and be worth $1,000 in a scenario, or $400, or $20, or it's like your money is worth different things in different places. And he kind of does an analysis on where your money could be best spent. And Peterson has been helping him reach more people with this goal. And in my opinion, founders of companies are going to help with this. Individuals too, but founders of companies will. And what more interesting thing to do than set up a future generation of people with financial freedom and flexibility to pursue what they want to pursue? I find that to be truly beautiful. So I hope this was inspiring to you. It's been inspiring to me. It took a minute for me to jot these ideas down, but it's worth it. It's always worth it. Start now. Reach out to me if you want any help. I'm an entrepreneurial engineer. Come and I will engineer your entrepreneurial venture with you. Come find me.